Hi, everyone. Welcome to Branco Broadcast. I'm Bob Branco, and tonight we have with us Mr. Rob Stemple. He's worn quite a few hats. He's been a teacher, a superintendent, director of technology. He's a musician. He's done a lot of things, and he's fought a lot of battles. And without further ado, here's Robert Stemple. Good evening, Rob.
Good evening, Bob, and thanks for the invitation to talk on the broadcast. So appreciate that. Would you just like me to kind of tell my story and then see if we have some questions from the listeners? Or?
You can give us a brief background, and then we'll ask you whatever we'd like afterwards.
Okay, I'll be happy to do that. I live in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, which up until 9/11, absolutely nobody had ever heard of. But, of course, one of the planes that came down on 9/11 was Flight 93 that actually crashed about a mile from my house in Shanksville. But we moved here in 1981 when I got a teaching job at Rockwood School District. I was a high school special education there for 8 years. And up to that point in time, my life was fairly normal. I had been diagnosed, however, with a type of muscular dystrophy when I was 14 called facial scapulohumeral muscular dystrophy, which nobody has ever heard of. It's FSHD for short. But one thing that did have is in terms of a plus, and of course diseases are never really seen as opportunities, but it did eventually get me connected with the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, and they helped put me through college and get me my teaching degree. And so I was a special education teacher from 1981 through 1989. Finished my school year in May of 1989. Through my teaching career, my summer work was always painting houses, and we did a little bit of roofing, a little bit of siding, that kind of thing with a few other teachers on a crew. We actually put a new roof on my house the week after school let out. And the following week, my wife and I were planning to take our 3 kids down to North Carolina to visit her sister for our yearly, I should say, vacation, sponging off the relatives like most teachers that start out. Not making a whole lot of money, but that just didn't quite happen. That weekend, one of the other things that I had started doing when I was actually a teenager and continued was to play professionally as a keyboard player. And so I was out over that weekend. I played a job on Friday night. Actually played for 2 jobs, a couple of weddings on Saturday, and we played a 50th wedding anniversary on Sunday. I was filling in with different groups, so over the weekend I actually played with 3 different bands, but they were all in the Pittsburgh area, which is roughly an hour and a half from here. So I stayed over with my parents, which was somewhat closer. They weren't home, so I just crashed in at the living room of their place. And that Sunday morning I took my grandma to church, took her out to lunch, and then I went to play this 50th wedding anniversary party, which ended around 5 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. And one of the things I never did when I was playing was to drink on the job. I started playing when I was a teenager, so my dad was a real stickler with the guys I was playing with, that if I ever came home drunk, that would be the end of my playing career. So I just, as a rule, had learned just, never, don't drink on the job. So in any case, I left the restaurant where I was playing, heading back to Shanksville to get myself packed up and leave the next morning at 6 a.m. to take the family on vacation. And unfortunately, on the way home, a lady who had been drinking lost control of her car. She swerved off the road and then overcorrected and shot across her lane into my lane. It's a 2-lane undivided highway with a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, and we virtually crashed head-on with not a whole lot of brakes involved. He was just all of a sudden in front of me. So he was driving a half a Mercury Monarch, half a Ford Renata, reconstructed car from the mid-'70s. I was driving a Chevy Sprint, which was a little tiny 3-cylinder car made by Suzuki, actually, that got great gas mileage, but it just really wasn't a lot of protection to head-on collision. So very violent crash. Took them a couple of hours to get me out of the car and through the local hospital to the roof to get the life flight to Pittsburgh to the trauma unit, and spent 19 days in trauma and then another few weeks at UPMC in Pittsburgh. Then a few months at a place called Harmerville for physical rehabilitation, and from there to the Cleveland Sight Center for adjustment to blindness training, and came home in end of May of 1990, a couple of weeks shy of a full year after my accident, as a rehabilitated blind person. That one of the things they taught me in Cleveland was I'm sorry, was that a question?
Go right ahead, Rob. I don't know what that was.
I'm not sure either, but anyways, I did really well at Cleveland at the Sight Center. I did learn Braille. That in 1990, computers were running DOS, and I learned to operate a computer with JAWS was my preferred speech program, and I actually got one of those Kurzweil personal readers. I'm old enough that some of you younger people on the call may not remember. The Kurzweils were an electronics unit about the size of a suitcase that was tied to a scanner that was just about the size of another suitcase that was supposedly portable. Well, it was somewhat portable, I guess. You could pick it up and carry it, but it was not portable and when you think in terms of iPhones and things like that in this generation. But in any case, I did come home with a lot of the technology. But, of course, one of the things that I did take advantage of in Cleveland was learning to use the public transportation system there, getting on buses, off buses, and how to navigate in a city. Coming home to Shanksville was kind of a little bit of a culture shock because the transportation system, just to say, was not on the level of Cleveland or any other city for that matter. But we made the best of it, and I was not able to return to teaching, but I did spend a few years using my musical talents. We made several different personalized tapes for kids for a few years. The business was called Just For You. We ran it from the house and had a little makeshift recording studio in what had been a bedroom, and so I would spend my days making personalized tapes for kids, which were really cool because they were just not the kid's name dropped in, but we had an order for them so kids could give us their brothers, their sisters, their pets, their favorite toys, their grandparents, so it turned into kind of a very individualized tape for a particular child. And we enjoyed doing that for a few years, but had some throat issues, and I think that was part of the FSHD coming back to haunt me a little bit, and needed to find something else to do. So actually was looking around in 1994 with what could be the next chapter of my life. Managed to get an interview with the Blind Association director in the neighboring county, Westmoreland County in Greensburg, PA. They were looking for somebody to spearhead opening a satellite manufacturing facility in surrounding counties. They had gotten a grant from National Industries for the Blind to do that. So it really worked out well time-wise because they were looking for leadership in surrounding counties around Greensburg, and I was certainly looking for some type of employment, some kind of mission to get involved with. So we organized a group that started meeting in the summer of '94, and in January of '95 we opened what eventually became Somerset County Blind Center Incorporated, which I ran as the director from '95 through 2008. We ran into some financial difficulties somewhere around 2006. We'd gotten involved with a National Industries for the Blind contract that, let's just say, wasn't quite as advertised. And as a result of that, that kind of really impacted financially. But in '08, we merged with the Susquehanna Association for the Blind and Vision Impaired, and I continued to be involved and to work for the association in public relations, assistive technology instruction, representing the organization in this area, because Susquehanna is actually headquartered in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. That's not the next county over. That's about 150 miles from here. So we were kind of their western outpost. But that partnership worked pretty well. In July of 2015, however, we were involved with a kind of a switch, if you will. They determined that they wanted to take the agency and make us part of Pittsburgh Vision Services, which geographically makes a lot of sense, and did open up some other services to our clientele in Somerset County. So that was a good thing. But just about the same time that was all transpiring, I really started to feel a lot more the effects of the muscular dystrophy. This is a kind of a slow-acting dystrophy that starts with your facial muscles, your neck, your shoulders, your upper arms, but eventually impacts your core muscles, your legs, and so I'm at a point where I've got lots and lots of physical limitations, and when they decided to transfer to Pittsburgh Vision, I decided to retire at that point. But retirement was only a semi-retirement at best. I've continued to work with the organization, doing some assistive technology locally, and occasionally representing the organization at meetings around the county. And one of the things that I started doing early on in 1991, after coming back from my year of rehab, I started playing at area nursing homes, and I had several that I've literally played with. I played there once a month for the last 27 years, but after I semi-retired in 2015, was able to add some additional drivers to my core of volunteer drivers that I've developed over the years, and at this point in time, I'm playing at about 10 different facilities around the county, mostly nursing homes, but also a couple of facilities for adults with disabilities. I play at the hospice that our hospital operates for people who are at the end of life stage, and still doing a lot of music as I'm physically able to. Everything keeps getting a little more difficult, but I'm trying to maintain as much as I can. And one of the things I've done for about 10 years now is I've also done a column in our local newspaper. I don't know. Pre-game conversation, at least one of our listeners is a social worker, and people that work in social services are used to answering the same questions over and over and over again. And I don't know how many times over the years I would hear the same thing. We didn't know the Blind Association was even out there until, Uncle Joe or Grandma or Mom or Dad or my husband or my wife started to have vision problems. And we're sure glad you're out there, but it was hard to find you. So, and talking to other agencies, I know they have the same kind of dilemma. People don't realize the services that are out there until they actually need them. That's when they start searching for them. So the original concept of my column was to be a Q&A mostly related to social services, but over the years, I've pretty much just become the county's answer man to any random questions you might have. So I've answered questions, of course, on social services, but I've also answered questions on recycling of all types, just pretty much lots and lots of different random topics over the years. But it has made life kind of interesting, and it's amazing what you can find, particularly with Google and internet searching. So anyways, that's what how my life has played out, and I feel like I've been very blessed over the years. I've had lots of challenges, but God has also placed lots of people in my life to help me along the way. So lots of blessings as well.
Bob, I have a question.
Okay.
Rob, this is Jay from Boston, Massachusetts. I like your story. You sound like you really are quite a challenged individual, but in the meantime, you're well adjusted and you are a winner. My first question is, when you went to bar that night, did you just go over there just having a good time and drinking, or you went to bar because you were playing something there? Were you at the time musician?
Yes. I
How
was
old
a
were you?
professional musician. Yeah. Well, I was actually, when my accident happened, I was 31. I had started playing professionally when I was 13. I was playing with guys in their 20s and 30s. I'm not gonna brag, Jay, but I actually am a pretty darn good keyboard player, and so I did that all through high school, all through college, and through my 20s, it was a great second job. But as I said, I learned as a teenager that people who drink, I don't know if you've ever been out to bars or not, Jay, but
no,
folks,
I don't like bars because it's too noisy.
That's okay. I know what you mean. But people oftentimes will come out to a club and they would have a drink or two, and they were usually hesitant to dance or get too rowdy unless they had a few drinks in them. But over the years, I just watched too many people make fools out of themselves drinking, and I also played with musicians who thought they played better after a drink or two, which was absolutely never the case. So no, I never drank, but this was actually in the afternoon. Though I played so many years where I was playing 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. and driving home at 4 or 5 in the morning. But this is actually a 50th anniversary for a really nice couple, and it started at 2 in the afternoon, and we were done at 5. And this is a Sunday afternoon, so I wouldn't think that's the time you were necessarily going to run into a drunk driver, but unfortunately, that's what happened for me.
Yeah, Rob, you mentioned I used to run a concert in Boston, Persian community, for many, many years. When I used to have a musician coming from California, speaking about drinking, they always had to have something before going on stage, especially the singer. Because if they didn't, it's almost like afraid of stage. I mean, I know there's a stage as a problem, so you definitely need to really relax. But of course, they didn't have to go anywhere because I had a room in the very hotel that we were having the concert. Right. All they had to do go upstairs. But you come across that you're well adjusted, and at the meantime, you're trying to help out some of the people might face in such a dilemma in terms of blindness and other things, and you certainly came out of it and doing well, and despite the fact with some other difficulty. Now, I heard you mentioned something about some muscle problem. Was that developed because of the accident or because of just family background?
That's actually a family background. Muscular dystrophy is a genetic disease, pretty much transferred from parent to child, but you can be a carrier but not have the actual disease. You got to have certain genes from mom and dad for the disease to actually show itself, because it's a recessive disease. But for me, unfortunately, when I was 14, that's when I was actually diagnosed. And it was really a simple thing. I don't know why I remember this so well, but I'm in Latin class as a freshman in high school, and this gentleman came into the class, and he said, passed out sheets of paper and said, I just want you to write your name on that paper, and if there's anything that you can't do, physically or mentally, anything you can't do, just write it down. Well, I had noticed like a year before that I could not raise my arms over my head, just couldn't do it. You're trying to raise your hand in class, and I had to use one arm to prop up the other arm. So I just wrote that down on the paper, and the next thing I know, I'm in the guidance office demonstrating what I can't do. Then after that, I'm at Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh getting needles stuck in me, and that was not much fun. But they eventually came up with the diagnosis and confirmed it with a muscle biopsy, and it's one of those. It's a progressive condition and I think any of you guys that have a deteriorating vision condition, maybe related to diabetes or something like that, can relate because for some people they can be diagnosed and a year later they're in a wheelchair. For me, I did really well with the disease, and I mean it progressed slowly over the years. But when I turned about 55, it all of a sudden just decided it was not going to take the back seat anymore, and so for the last 5 years it's been a kind of a steady downhill decline. But I'm still doing water exercise a couple days a week and trying to maintain what I can. But it's given me a better insight for people who lose their sight slowly.
Rob, this is Steve. I think you really had a good example, like how you persevered, and a lot of people, you make me think we all have our issues, and you just pushed through it. It wasn't easy, but I'm just curious, with your music, do you have any of your music online? Because just by the way you present yourself, I think your music would be very inspiring. I'm sensing that just because you're well-rounded, you've gone through a lot. You've pushed ahead, and you've really not given up.
In other words, Rob, you bragged about it. Let's see if you can.
Yeah, I want to hear it. Yeah, so do I. You're going to toot your own horn sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that.
Great.
Let me tell you guys, it's not really online anywhere, but I can make it available. I
can get your music online if you want.
I'd love that. It'd be great, Steve.
All right, I'll have Bob give you my contact information.
All right, that'll be fantastic. But
yep.
It's interesting. You guys said I never give up. That's probably true. And I did a CD of original songs back in 1993, and the title track off that CD was actually called "Don't Give Up." So.
Love it.
The name of that CD. That's.
Well, I want to hear your music. What kind of music do you like? Do you have a specific genre, or?
Well, I'll tell you what. We do what I'm playing with now. It's interesting because, of course, I go to the nursing homes, and that's a variety of old stuff mixed in with a little bit of new stuff, mixed in with some church hymns, mixed in with some of your old sing-along.
Definitely want to put you on my channel.
But then I go out to church and we have our kids' choir rehearsal, and that's like, they love the keyboards with the bass and the drums and all that fun stuff. So that's more of a contemporary sort of thing. And then we have our contemporary group that's doing. I don't know if anybody is familiar with the K-Love and the contemporary music scene with Christian music, but we do a lot of Casting Crowns music, Third Day, another one of the groups we like to do, Mercy Me, some of that sort of thing. So I do quite a variety, but we also go out to events over the summertime. We don't just play at church. We go out to, well, you got to remember, I'm in Somerset County, which is extremely rural. The trees definitely outnumber the people by a matter.
Oh, yeah, in the sticks, huh?
But we play at tractor shows and gas and steam festivals, things like that. But we do like to mix in some country music. We like to do Rascal Flatts and some of those kinds of groups. But we just have a good time, and hopefully convey the message. We won't do any songs that are not positive tunes. I gave up Friends in Low Places, things like that. We don't do that anymore. We are a Christian group, so we don't want to represent that too much. But
Rob, I think this is Joni. I think it's great that you're writing a column and letting people know, answering any questions that they have. And I think it's been a problem for an awful lot of people with disabilities when they first become disabled. Where do you go? I've always been blind. I have retinopathy of prematurity. And when I was born, my parents didn't know for about 3 or 6 months or something that I couldn't see. But then they had a problem of knowing, where do we go and where do we find a place to go? And they, after doing a lot of questioning and everything, they found out about our New Jersey State Commission for the Blind. But and even today, in today's market, people still don't know where to go.
But you're right. That's truly amazing, Joni, because there are some really good services out there. I think every state has an agency for the blind, and sometimes it's mixed in with the Office of
except for Rhode Island.
Right, but they're all out there, and people just seem to be. I don't know. They just you can even make sure that things are in the newspaper periodically, but invariably people are going to say, "Gee, I never knew you were here."
Yeah.
It always amazed me when people walk into my office, and they, I'm so glad we found you guys. Well, we've been here for 15 years, and it's not like we've been hiding. We've been hiding in plain sight, I guess, is the best way to put it. They drive past your building, see your sign, but don't connect the dots until they actually need that service. So,
unless they're Braille dots, and we can connect those very well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So what?
Easily.
I said about assistive technology, and I love the new technology. It's truly incredible what you can do. But I am so glad that I learned Braille early on. I would never want to read War and Peace in Braille because I am slow.
Oh no.
But I'll tell you what, on a Sunday morning, I need my Braille notes. I know what hymn is coming next. I know what the response is going to be for the offertory.
What do you think of the new Braille?
It's okay. It needed. I guess it needed to be revised to make sense for computer technology and that sort of thing. But for me personally, I haven't really even bothered to use the new code. I know I'm only writing notes for myself, so I don't really care if I'm using the old code or the new code. And one of the things it's just amazing to me around here, though, is and mostly I work with people who are losing their sight as adults, but they just have no interest in Braille. It's like intimidating to them. They get some kind of it's like you want to teach them Mandarin Chinese or something like that.
Yeah, it's a shame.
But here in New
Jersey, where people are really learning Braille, there is a good percentage of people that are, especially the kids, but I think adults too. I think it's very good. Anyway, I'm going to have to leave. I'm sorry, but I have another commitment. So,
Joni, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, Rob. It was very good to meet you. And keep on keeping on. Bye-bye, everyone.
We're going to keep on trying anyways.
Yeah.
So long, Joni.
Bye-bye.
It's kind of a shame about the Braille because with the technology now, people can read e-books in Braille and the Braille displays. People are like, Braille isn't dead at all. Far from it.
No. Yeah. And even if you are just going to use a slate and stylus, I tell people all the time, you don't need to learn all 290 contractions. Just let me teach you the alphabet. So you can just, you think about a grocery list or a phone number, and I see people stumbling around trying to figure out how to, just maintain, a name and a phone number for 10 minutes so they don't forget it till they get someplace where they can record it or whatever. But Braille just solve some real simple problems like that
Low tech.
This is
overlooked. That simple
Karen.
low tech solution.
Oh. Yep.
Go ahead, Karen.
Karen, go ahead.
I just want to say I really liked your story and how you've come through with both your blindness and your muscular dystrophy. And then sometimes we don't pay enough attention to secondary disabilities. But needless to say, what kind of artists do you like to play? Do you like to play with your music?
My favorite music in my playing career, back when I was playing with bands, was probably just the contemporary pop music. What you hear on regular radio stations. So, I mean, back in the day, we would be doing songs by I don't know, Lionel Richie and a little earlier than that, the Eagles and Three Dog Night and some of those people. But I'm more into the contemporary music. Although I have to tell you, I did my time in country bands, polka bands, disco groups. We played
you did it all
over the years.
Wow. Yeah. I just want to respond about Braille. It's so handy. I've known Braille since I also had ROP, and I've known Braille since I was a kid, and it's so handy. Someone will ask you to take down a number. I had to take down a phone number today. Just wrote it out in Braille, my Braille writer.
Yeah.
And it's so handy to have it available.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Hi, Rob. Can you hear me? This is Penny Fleckenstein.
I can hear you, Penny.
All right, Penny, go ahead.
Thank you. With the health concerns that you have, and I have a lot of health concerns too, I tend to get exhausted very easily and run out of energy. So I was wondering if maybe you had some tips you could give me about keeping my energy up. I take a lot of rest breaks, so I might work 5 minutes, take a break for 5 minutes, work 15 minutes, take a break for 10 minutes throughout the day. But you obviously don't have that option when you're playing music somewhere.
No, I'll tell you what, an hour is about it for me anymore. I mean, playing a 4-hour engagement, like I did years ago. That's just not in the cards anymore. Actually, the ideal job for me is playing for a church service, because you play a song or two, and then you sit while they read something or do something, and then you play a song, then you do something, and then you play a song. So if you can spread 6 songs out over an hour, it's perfect for me. And I tried to apply that strategy to pretty much everything else I do as well. I'm like you, Peggy. I really, really am having to learn a lot of lessons about pacing myself. Back in my executive director days with the agency, I mean, I'd start at 7 in the morning and I'd still be there at the office 7:30, 8 o'clock at night quite often. I just physically can't do that anymore. So I try to maybe give myself a task to do in the morning and maybe something in the afternoon. Today's a good example. I wrote my column for next Monday this morning. Other than checking email and reading my Bible study stuff for the day, the rest of my morning was pretty much just not doing a whole lot of activity. This afternoon I played at a nursing home, and well, I'll tell you what, I got home from that hour of solid playing, and I just pretty much had to sit down and do nothing for about an hour to let.
Well, you did a lot more than I did today.
Just let muscles settle back in.
Hey, he did a lot more than me. All I did was go to physical therapy, and I came home and I crashed.
That's just exhausting thinking about that physical therapy.
Oh yeah.
Even that I try to. As I said, I do water exercise a couple days a week, which helps me immensely because I can move things in the water that I just physically can't move in open space anymore. But even that,
Rob, I have a question for you, Rob. You're involved with technology. Do you find that the technology that we have at our disposal today is going to help us lower the unemployment rate of the blind, or do you think that with the constant upgrade that we always have to catch up?
You know, Apple just has the right idea with all of that, with building voice over into the operating system, and Microsoft is getting much better. Narrator is actually a fairly decent screen reader at this point, but really? I think the biggest problem we're going to have to continue to deal with, and I don't think it really has anything to do with technology. It has to do with people's perceptions.
Yep.
Yep.
It's just incredible to me. Yeah.
I think that's something we'll always have to deal with.
Yeah, and that's a solid wall, and I don't think that wall is really
that's our glass ceiling
significantly. Yeah. I'd like to say it's different out here in the country, but it's not. So we started the Blind Center, and that was a pretty small group of people. But eventually, at one point in time, we had a workshop that employed about 25 people every day, and we had a staff of about 10. So I was running a fairly large organization, and as I said, we merged with Susquehanna in 2008, and my job was full-time until 2013, at which point in time they made my job part-time, which economically was probably okay. I understood that, but one of the requirements in Pennsylvania is if you're on unemployment compensation, which I was eligible for a partial claim, you can sign up and you can collect a little bit of unemployment, but you're required to do some job searching.
Yeah.
And, I didn't have any problem with that because I thought, well, you know what, we'll go out and see how I can do out in the real world. Well, it was just shocking to me how many people that I knew around in the human service field whom I had worked with for years, served on committees with. I thought done my share of the work on committees and everything, and I thought they understood pretty well that a blind person could succeed in the world of work.
Yeah.
When I was asking them about a job with their agency, then it was a totally different story.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we don't think you can do this job because you're blind.
Yeah,
like,
really. I know.
What about all this great technology and stuff? Well, but and then you just get that but, and they don't ever say why they don't want to hire you as a blind person, but it's just that perception is still very, very prevalent that you can't do that because you're blind.
Rob, are you physically mobile?
At this point in time, and this is Jay, right?
Yes, this is Jay.
Yeah, Jay, I'm really very limited. I'm okay for like household distances walking, but anything longer than about 50 feet, and I'm sad to say I'm going to be using a wheelchair these days. That's totally frustrating for me because
obviously you've proven that you are, as Kenneth Jernigan said it years ago, unstoppable and unbeatable.
There you go.
And your story is great. And I enjoyed, obviously, looks like that not only well adjusted, but looks like that being a musician, you are such a flexible fellow, and that flexibility helps great deal, no matter what you do. Therefore, I wish you good luck, and I certainly enjoyed your story.
Appreciate that, Jay.
You're welcome.
So I'm saying, I know you play, like you said, in bars and stuff, but I'm getting the sense that your music is more like a labor of love for you than a career.
God, absolutely, yeah.
So, but I would like to, hear your music and kind of spread your message out there.
I sure appreciate that, and if Bob can facilitate some contact information, we can we can get in touch and make that happen.
Great.
But,
all right.
Yeah, I really
Be glad to.
I haven't played in the bars and all that stuff for a long time.
Well, that's probably just as well.
These days, it's mostly
a rough scene.
Well, yeah, and you know what? The whole music industry is changing, and it's been going on for a long time. DJs took over a lot of the work that bands used to have, but and I'm in the boondocks too. So I mean, back when I was playing, I was often going to Greensburg, which is 50 miles away, or Pittsburgh, which is 80 miles away, or Altoona, which is 50 miles away. Shanksville is in the middle of nowhere. I always told my kids when they were growing up, if you looked in the dictionary for the middle of nowhere, it would have a little parenthesis there, Shanksville.
I think the only reasons I know about Shanksville is because of SB2W, which is a great Bible camp there in the summertime, and, of course, the 9/11.
Yeah.
Right, the plane coming down, but we do have.
Are you on social media at all, Rob?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I'm not real religious about Facebook, but I'm on Facebook.
No. yeah, that's okay.
I mean, I'll give you my email address. My email is just robstemple@comcast.net. If anybody would like to.
That's, okay. I'll get in touch with you.
Stemple, right? STEMPLE, right?
Correct.
Comcast.net.
.net, yep.
Okay. I'll be in touch.
Get in touch. If any of you guys have any questions or I can help you in any way, just get in touch.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, I have one more question for you, Rob, regarding music, and you just reminded me of something. DJs today have to walk a thin line, in my opinion. There is so much out there. For example, what is your take on all of the music that we have at our disposal now through our Amazon Music, Alexa, and everything else? How far can a DJ go in order to take advantage of that, or is there still any legal parameters that prevent them from doing what's tempting for them like that?
You know what? I really don't know the answer to that question. I know there's a lot of artists out there that are really trying to recoup some of the money they think they should be getting paid for royalties from the.
Well, what I mean is, can a DJ use their own Amazon Music to make their job a lot easier now that they have this technology at their disposal, such as Alexa, or is that still something they can't do?
Well, I'm not sure they're supposed to, but I know a lot of DJs that do that. So, yep.
That reminds me of I was on Facebook once and I had what's-her-name play a song that I wanted to share, and Facebook said, this is copyrighted material. Your post has been blocked.
Yeah, that's right. I remember we were trying to find something.
So it's just weird because it's good because, musicians want to protect their information, but also you kind of want to share your songs so that people will buy your albums, but you kind of love playing music anyway, so it doesn't matter, I guess, to you in that way.
Well, you know what? For me, I'm not sure if I'm ever going to write any hit songs, but I have a few that I think are pretty good and they have pretty good messages, and I just assume.
Hey, maybe you'll go viral on the channel when I put your songs out there. You never know.
Never know.
You never know. But
don't limit yourself.
Interesting little side story. We have a couple in our church. Their granddaughter is getting married to a young man named Brody Jenner. He happens to be Bruce Jenner's, the former Bruce Jenner's son. But, his mom is a lady named Linda Thompson. She's been writing songs for about 40 years. She was married to Elvis before she was married to Bruce Jenner, and we wrote a benediction that we end our church services with that our congregation really loves. So Judy's going to take our choral benediction with her on a CD and take the lyrics with her and all that sort of thing.
Now, do you sing as well? I know you said you play great keyboards, but do you sing as well, or?
Well, I'll tell you what. I used to sing some lead, but especially with our church group, I mean, we have people that's all they do is sing. They don't play anything. So if I sing, they just stand there looking silly. So for the most part, I'll sing harmony, but I let everybody else sing the lead and just fill in the harmonies. But when I'm not playing at the nursing homes, then I'm singing at the top of my lungs. I don't have a real loud voice, but they need somebody to lead the singing, so that's what I do.
We have time for a couple more questions.
We might have exhausted the questions.
Perhaps. Well, Rob, you've done a lot. You've overcome some obstacles, obviously, and whatnot, but you've done quite a lot. You should be blessed with all that you've done, all your talents and your abilities in all different areas of life, and we commend you, and the best of luck to you in the future, and we hope to have you back on the show.
I appreciate that, Bob, and I'm going to have to start tuning in as a listener as well. But just
by all means.
Well, just one last second, if you don't mind, I'd like to just mention that I've struggled with God over the years. He and I have not always been on good terms, but he has found ways to bless me through muscular dystrophy, through car crashes, through losing jobs, through having to merge my agency out of existence. God has just found ways to bless me through all sorts of things, and I'm just very, very grateful that I'm able to still do something and be productive and serve out in the world. So that's my testimony, and I'm sticking with it.
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
You open one door, you close another, and you open another. Yeah.
Always does. Yep.
Well, thank you, Rob. And again, we'll have you back at some point, and I'll have you added to our list of subscribers to our Branco broadcast notifications.
Yep. Send that out to me, all right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you.
Hey.
All right.